Welcome back to Echo, and last we saw, Chase, TJ, Carl, and Jenna were off doing a little treasure hunt related to a note that Carl found in his crawlspace from their dead friend. And now, off in the second clue, Chase is suspicious that this might actually be someone else's doing and not their dead friend. Because, dead people don't do these things. And dead people don't know things that happened after they died. Now then, let us begin. TJ gets up early in the morning and I fall in and out of sleep as he moves around the room quietly. The shower turns on and at some point I think I hear Jenna's voice. I fall asleep again and when I wake up next, I see Jenna in the corner of the room, sitting at a little table and typing away on her laptop. I stare at her groggily until she notices me. Morning. Still tired? It's almost noon. I rub my face into my pillow and groan. Guess I was up later than I thought. I force myself to sit up. I couldn't fall asleep. Yeah, I've been having trouble too. The beds are terrible. I look around. Where's Tej? Hike. What? He went on a hike. I sit there, frowning at Jenna. She types a while until she finally notices me staring and shakes her head. I don't know. He wanted to go alone. He's been asking us to go with him all week. I know. I think something's bothering him. Jenna pauses. Well, I know it's a scavenger hunt. Of course that's what's bothering him. I sit on the edge of the bed, rubbing my face with my paws. This was a bad idea. Jenna goes on typing. Maybe. Maybe not. He really wanted to do it. I'm going to try to talk to him when he gets back, though. I stare at my feet for a moment, deciding on whether or not just to text him now. Jenna, do you think there's something weird about this treasure hunt? Jenna doesn't even look up from her screen. Of course I do. I think everything about this is weird. I mean, I don't even know if Sydney put those there. Jenna finally looks up at me. Why not? Just everything seems off. Who do you think put them there then? I shrug. I don't know. Jenna stares at the computer screen for a while, not typing anymore. Well, the whole reason we're doing this is because of TJ. This seems to be what he wants to do. And even if it was someone else that left them there, if it's going to help him, then I'm going to help him with it. Jenna shrugs. And in the end, this is all just a treasure hunt. I'm just hoping that it ends at the house. Yeah. Jenna goes on typing, apparently done with the conversation, so I finally get up to go to the shower. Breakfast is long gone by the time I get to the lobby, and what's left is a few dried biscuits. So I opt to go to the diner instead while Jenna opts to stay in the room to finish her paper. I sit at my usual booth in the corner of the diner, half-heartedly flipping through the menu. Janice comes over to take my order, and my short answers to her pleasantries keep her from being too chatty. Once I'm done ordering, I sit back and look out the window, watching the bright sun bake the hot desert below. I imagine TJ out there in the trail, trudging along the path under the 100-plus-degree weather. Aside from worrying about what he might be going through right now, I am also worried that he might pass out in this kind of weather. I can only hope that he had the right mind to take along enough water and make sure to cool off, like he did to me. I look down at my phone on the table again, considering whether or not I should call him. Maybe a text at least. Hey man, smiley face. Then I set my phone back down and wait for a response, wondering if I might drive out to the trail myself if he doesn't. That's when I sense someone moving up next to my table. I look up expecting to see Janice, but I'm met with the sight of a young white deer, his clasped paws holding a folded blue apron. I blank on his name for a few moments, and I'm left with my mouth hanging open like an idiot. Then I remember. Oh, Julian, was it? Julian smiles. Hey there, my shift just ended and I saw you sitting here. I wait, but he doesn't go on. Oh, I don't want to say it, but it looks like he's expecting it, and I can't really find a way out, so... Did you want to sit down? Yeah, sure. Julian responds quickly and slides into the booth across from me, setting his folded apron down on the table. Thanks. Yeah, no problem. I wonder if I sounded a little annoyed. A part of me hopes that I do, so that he might get the hint, like Janice did. But he goes on sitting there, interlocking his fingers and resting his forearms on the table. How are you today? Good. You? Julian shrugs. I've been better. This job is really starting to wear me out, you know? Yeah, I had a few like that. While the buck seems nice enough, I don't think I've had more than 5 conversations with the guy in my entire life. He was just a regular face that I saw through the middle of high school, a part of the background. It wasn't until the last year of high school that I noticed him and TJ hanging out, and TJ was the only reason we ever briefly interacted. So, I'm a bit confused now as to why he's suddenly taken an interest. Yeah? What sort of jobs do you have? Well, I'm between jobs right now. I'm going to school, but I probably will stack shelves over the summer, like I did last year. So, the job wore you out? Well, no, but my fast food job did, the one I had in high school. I kind of like stacking boxes and putting stuff on shelves. I see. I think food service jobs are definitely the worst, so I can see why stocking might be a little better. He breaks off as Janice comes back, setting down my chicken sandwich. Oh, you know Chase, Julian? A little. I know him through TJ. Ah, well, if you see the boy again, let him know that I'd like to have a chat with him. I look up and Janice gives me a wink before bustling off. I decide I'm definitely not going to let TJ know. But anyway, I'm going to school too, over at Mesa, and this diner has some flexible hours, only reason why I'm still here. At least you guys seem to be very busy. Well, don't seem to be very busy, even during the lunch hour. I nod at the 2 or 3 other occupied tables. Yeah, it's a wonder we're still in business. Probably gonna have to close it down in a year or two. That idea actually makes me a little sad. I look down at my chicken sandwich, feeling a little bit awkward at the idea of Julian just watching me eat, so I leave it on the plate for now. Julian leans back and looks out the window. So, where's Tej at? I thought you two were hanging out. I get the feeling that this is the main reason why Julian is talking to me. Yeah, he went off on a hike earlier this morning. I slipped in. Oh, I see. He still do that a lot? I shrug. I don't know, we've only been here about a week. He does love going on hikes though. I mean, does he do that at CCU? I stare at Julian for a second before I realize what he's talking about. Oh, no, I don't go to CCU. I'm at Pueblo. Huh. So, you guys met up here? Well, I picked him up and brought him here, along with Jenna, but she goes to Pueblo too. I grow a little frustrated at having to explain everything to this guy. All I wanted to do is eat, then go back to the motel and wait for TJ. I see, well, TJ was my best friend during senior year after you and Carl left. We hung out all the time. After he left for college, we kind of lost touch. Yeah, he's not very active on social media. I'd only seen TJ post a few pictures since he started classes. A few of him were at the college soccer team, and one was of him standing in a prayer circle along with an inspirational quote. But Julian revealing that he was TJ's best friend towards the end of high school cools my exasperation. I suppose he does have a reason to know what TJ might be up to. He was kind of depressed right after graduation, so I've been a little worried about him. Depressed? That surprises me. I've never known TJ to be depressed. Sure, he's been sad before, but not outright depressed, as far as I know. Maybe I don't know much about him. I thought it might have had to do something with graduation, but it went on all summer. Oh, well, if you want to talk to him, I can definitely let him know. I gesture at my phone on the table. I also make a mental note to myself that I should talk to TJ too about everything. Julian smiles. That would be great. Please do. I think he must have changed his number after leaving. Okay. I hesitate, then pick up the phone to type out the brief message. I just met Julian at the diner. He'd like to talk to you. Smiley face. TJ hasn't texted me back. How long have you known TJ? I set the phone back down and settled back into the booth. Since he got here in 2001, so 14 years ago? Whoa, that's a long time. Yeah, it really is. So, you guys have always been good friends? For the most part. I had times where I was kind of a dick to him, but he's always been a good friend to me. I see. Yeah, we all went to the same elementary school, but it wasn't until junior high that I met him in Bible study. Ah, of course. I always knew about you guys though, the Echo Kids. Yep, that was us, the weirdos. Julian glances around before lowering his voice. It was a mean thing to say, but this town is kind of messed up. A lot of weird things happen here. I can't argue with that. Julian looks around a bit, biting his lip. Then he lowers his voice another notch. Hey, so this is gonna be a bit weird, and I don't want to offend you, but it's something that's been bothering me for a while. I eye Julian warily. Yeah? TJ told me what happened at Lake Emma a while back when we were talking about death and heaven. I feel a little chill go up my spine. Well, he never actually told me what happened exactly, but I can tell it really affected him. Julian pauses, but I don't say anything, keeping my eyes fixed on the table. Now, you don't have to tell me, and if it makes you uncomfortable, please don't. But I feel like if I have a better idea of what happened, I might understand him a bit better. Julian brings his interlocked fingers up to his chin to rest on it. I'm not going to ask him to tell me, of course. I know it was a long time ago, but I know you can carry stuff like that around for a long time. So, if you're not okay with it, then please let me know, and I'll change the subject. I contemplated for a moment, wondering if the buck is out of line to be asking about such a thing. I decide he isn't. He's one of TJ's best friends, so in a way, he's sort of connected to it. So, I guess he does have a reason to want to know. Okay, but please don't bring it up with TJ. Like you said, it still really affects him. Never. Julian looks at me solemnly. I think for a moment, gathering my thoughts. It's been a long time since I thought of the story from the beginning to end. It was around August, I think, 2003. It's a little bit hard to remember. What I do remember is that we all had gone down to the lake to swim like we did almost every week. There's this little spot where the beach kind of curves in and it's mostly sand and shallow water. That's where we usually hang out and swam. Even though the water was always kind of stagnant there, it was at least safe and warm compared to the rest of the lake. I think at some point one of us used to go and skip rocks. We had to go further up the shore to do that, and TJ was more interested in building sandcastles. So, he stayed behind while the rest of us went up to the beach to find rocks. When you go up that far, you can't really see the spot anymore, so I'm not completely sure what happened. I vaguely remembered looking back at TJ as we went up to the beach. The lynx bending down over his castle, the back of his wet swim trunks covered in sand from when he sat down. Sydney went with us. I at least remember that, but while we were skipping rocks, he just sort of disappeared. I glance up at Julian for a moment and see him listening attentively before I look back down at the table. Anyway, we heard some splashing and some shouting from TJ, and we ran up the beach to see Sydney floating out in the lake. I swam out there and got him. Too late though. I don't mention the part where TJ was crouched in 3 feet of water, staring at Sydney's body floating 20 feet away from him. I don't tell him that TJ's explanation for what happened always amounted to Sydney stepping out too far into the water. That maybe the current knocked him off balance and pulled him in. How he even said that it almost looked like an invisible shark had grabbed Sid and pulled him out. How none of it made any sense at all. None of us are sure what happened. It seems to be enough for Julian though, as he shakes his head. I'm very, very sorry to hear that, but thank you for telling me. All I know was that a friend of his drowned in the lake. He didn't tell me how close he was to it. It makes sense why it would still deeply affect him. No problem. I realize that Julian is probably the first person that I've ever told a story to outside of Echo. I also realize that it wasn't that hard to do at all. I suppose that it's easier to tell someone who wasn't related to the incident, someone that has no connection to the raw horror of that day. That, and a lot of time has passed. Maybe I just got over it without even knowing. But yeah, Echo is kind of a crazy place. You know about the mass hysteria thing that happened 100 years ago? This place is kind of famous for that. Almost all the paranormal podcasts I listen to have an episode on it. My heart skips a beat as I suddenly remember my project. I cover my face with my paws. Shit. What's wrong? Did I say something? I uncover my face to see Julian looking at me with some concern. No, I just forgot a school work that I need to get done. A project. The excitement around the scavenger hunt completely wiped the thought of it from my mind. Oh? What kind of project? A news report on Echo and that mass hysteria incident. I've barely done anything on it since I first got here. Oh hey, that's cool. Do you need help? I blink. The buck's eagerness surprises me. For the first time I see him become embarrassed, the skin on the inside of his ears turning a dark red. Sorry, it's just something that I've always been interested in. I got a little excited. I glance down at my phone and see that I still haven't gotten a response from TJ, so I get an idea. Despite my initial annoyance, I like how considerate Julian was about the whole lake incident. I also want to give him a chance to see TJ before the end of the trip. Well, actually, I've been meaning to get some footage of the mine, or at least the opening since it's sealed up. If you want, we can head up there to get some shots and at the same time look for TJ. The trail is in that area. Julian perks up. Hey, that would be really awesome. Thanks. Do you want to eat that first? I look down at my sandwich, then shake my head. I'll just eat it on the way to the motel. Oh, I got my truck. I can drive you over, and there's a bunch of room if you need it for your equipment. Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks. Let me just get a to-go box and we can leave. 20 minutes later, and we're heading up the narrow canyon road towards the mine. I haven't been here in years, but the dirt road leads straight to it, so I don't even have to look up the instructions. Julian chats away while I eat my lukewarm sandwich out of a foam to-go box. While there's an almost robotic quality to the buck with how articulate he is, he's also really nice. I can certainly see why TJ would call him a friend. The bumpy road curves upward, and finally, we get to the mine. There's a wide open dirt space for parking, along with some concrete barriers along the edge of the drop-off. There are a few signposts, probably giving a brief history on the mine, and then there's TJ. The lynx is sitting at the opening of the mine, right at the entrance. He's leaning back against the rebar grid that sealed the entrance. What the? Julian stops talking and looks over at me, then in the direction I'm looking. Whoa, is that Tej? I don't say anything because I realize how limp the lynx looks, his head tipped back, his paws limply laying on the ground. I'm out of the truck before Julian can even park, my to-go box spilling out onto the gravel as I jog towards TJ. TJ, hey, what's wrong? Are you okay? The lynx doesn't respond, and when I get to him, I see that his eyes are open, but they're rolled back to the point where I can only see white. I bend over him, trying to help him sit up more, made more difficult by his bulky backpack getting in the way. As I'm doing this, I feel a rush of cool air from the mine, blowing out through the rebar. I ignore it at first, focusing on trying to get TJ to respond to me. But then I realize there's a hissing sound to go with it, like someone is exhaling. I glance up through the grid, but I don't see anything. Still, I get the unnerving feeling that the opening is breathing somehow. Is he alright? Julian's shouting and running up next to me turns my attention back to TJ. I look down at the lynx and see his ears twitch around. Huh? What? I crouch down next to him, putting a paw behind his head to give him some support. TJ, what happened? Are you okay? TJ turns to me, blinking in confusion. Okay? What's wrong? He rubs at his eyes with the back of his paw before adjusting himself so that he can sit up straight. You were just sitting there. You almost looked. Julian pauses. It looked like you were passed out or something. TJ finally seems to focus on us, the dazed look in his eyes disappearing. Passed out? Oh, no, I was just taking a quick nap. TJ lets out a short laugh and leans his head back against his backpack. What? Here? I look back at the sealed mine, the ominous blackness still seeming to yawn open at us. Why? Well, it's hotter than usual today, so I started to feel like I was gonna pass out. That might be a bad sign. So I decided to rest once I got here. So you came here on purpose? Yeah, I saw the canyon with you last time, so I decided to take a trip to the mine this time. TJ smiles lazily at me as he continues to lounge against his backpack. Sorry, I worried you. And, oh, Julian! TJ seems to suddenly realize the stag is here. What are you doing here? TJ quickly gets up to his feet, sliding his arms out of the straps of his backpack. He hugs Julian, the stag hugging back just as enthusiastically. TJ doesn't even greet me so intimately. I guess they have more of a history than I thought. Hey, Tej, yeah, I met Chase at the diner. You weren't answering your texts, so we both decided to come up and find you. That, and TJ needed to get some footage of for his project. Oh, cool. Do you need help with that, Chase? TJ turns to me with a grin. I don't know what it is, but TJ's acting a lot more chipper than he was yesterday. That almost dark broodiness is gone, replaced by his usual cheer. I have to smile because of it, despite the situation just a few minutes ago. Sure. Another breeze of cool air seems to whoosh softly through the rebar. I look back at it. TJ, why the hell were you asleep next to this creepy mine? TJ frowns. It was really cool. Like, cold. I was laying in the opening and I felt some cool air blow out, so I decided to lean against it. It feels really nice. TJ walks up to the metal grid and spreads his arms out, clutching into the bars as he presses his face against it. Ah, eh. He leans his head back, pulling a face. Well, it smells really musty, but it feels good. I look back at the opening, the blackness inside sending chills up my spine. I think back to when a body was found there over 100 years ago. Even though I know there aren't any dead bodies in there now, it still creeps me the fuck out. I try to hide my shudder as I turn away, looking back at the truck. Hey, so are we going to Sydney's old house now? Is that why you guys came to find me? TJ's trying to hide it, but I can hear the eagerness in his voice. I turn back to look at him, the lynx now with his back to the mine, pressed up against it. I want to tell him to move away from the opening, but I wouldn't be able to explain to him why. Well, let me get some filming done first. I can do the voiceover later, so it'll be quick. I hold back a wince as I realize how much time that's also going to take. My project is going to be shit at this point. I can't avoid that. I just need to make sure it's the least shit as I can. Oh yeah, sorry. Hee. TJ laughs nervously, then looks away. Sorry, I'm just a little loopy from my nap. You guys really surprised me. It's okay, I'm gonna go get my equipment real quick, alright? TJ nods at me and I jog off to the parked car to grab my camera. So TJ might still be acting a little weird, but I'm just glad he seems happy again. Seeing him the way that he was last night was a little unnerving to say the least. I scoop up my camera back from the bed of the truck and head back, slowing down to a walk as the heat is already starting to catch up with me. How TJ was able to get on a several-hour-long hike is absurd to me. It almost seems foolish, especially for someone like TJ who knows about how dangerous that can be. When I get back to the mine entrance, I see Julian and TJ sitting with their backs to either side of the opening, chatting with each other. They're eating granola bars and TJ holds out one to me as I approach. Thanks. Hey TJ? Huh? TJ looks at me innocently. If you want to go on a hike again, be sure to bring me next time, okay? I don't think you should be out here alone. Oh, yeah, sure. His ears drop a little, a small frown on his face. I just don't want you to get hurt, you know? It's really hot today and it would have been really terrible if you had passed out alone. Yeah, sorry. I drop my bag gently on the ground before leaning back against the wall next to the lynx. It's all good, I just want to make sure you're okay. Hee hee, thanks. I just didn't want to wake you up this morning. Jenna offered to go with you, didn't she? TJ sighs quietly, looking away into the mine. Yeah, but I can tell you guys don't want to go. I just don't want to ruin this trip for you any more than I already have. What? TJ, what are you talking about? TJ goes quiet, then just shrugs his shoulders. Maybe he isn't back to his old self after all. I wouldn't mind going with you, TJ. I love hiking. Julian smiles gently at the lynx. For some reason, I feel a tiny tug of annoyance in my chest. It's stupid, but I was the one that offered first, and I'm the one that took TJ out the first time. Yeah, we can both go. The point is that you don't go out alone next time, alright, Tej? Yeah, okay. Thanks, guys. No problem. A short silence stretches out between the three of us before Julian speaks up again. We were just talking about our old Bible study group. TJ leans his head back against the wall, rolling his eyes. It's an expression I don't see from him very often. What about it? Oh, just the way that TJ would always take it so seriously and no one else would. TJ shakes his head in exasperation. Yeah, I never had any control in that club. Oh really? Were you in charge? It's a little odd to think of TJ in a leadership position like that. I just never knew him to put himself out there in high school. Yeah, I revived it after it sort of went defunct for a few years. Wasn't all that popular. TJ smiles with some embarrassment. Yeah, we had like 3 other members, not including you or me. Yeah, then one dropped out after like 2 meetings. Julian clicks his tongue. What a godless school we went to. Hey! You know I'm kidding. Mostly. Well, I did want atheists to join too, as long as they weren't disruptive. I just wanted to show everyone what a nice experience it could be. Even if you didn't believe. I very vaguely remember TJ inviting me to the club and me saying that I'd think about it. I never went, of course. Wasn't all that spiritual in the end, though. Yeah, mostly we just talked and brought snacks. It took TJ a while to realize no one wanted another Sunday school session at an actual school. Yep, hours of planning out the window. It was still a great time. I think 4 of us were happier for it. Yeah, I guess. TJ seems to suddenly notice me. Ah, sorry Chase, you wouldn't know much about this stuff. It's okay, it's interesting to hear about. Again, I get that little twinge of jealousy even though I know it's not fair. I chosen not to show up, probably using that time to go home and hang out with Leo. He didn't miss much, just discussions about movies and watching movies too. Ugh, they couldn't even be religious themed. Thank God. Hey! I laugh at how indignant TJ is. Well, I'm glad you had a good time at least. I came away thinking the whole thing was a failure. I think I remember mentioning that you wished your friend here would have shown up. I don't really remember. Of course you do. You said it all the time. TJ's ears flatten and turn red. Who? Me? Yep. Julian grins as TJ tries to look away. While the situation is kind of funny, now I feel even worse about not ever showing up. Sorry TJ, you know it was high school and all. Yeah, I understand, don't worry about it. So, did you start another club at your new school? TJ smirks. It's a Christian school, so there's like 50 clubs about religion. Oh, are you a member of any of them? A few. Which ones? A singles club? Singles? As in finding a date? Sure. He looks away again. It's hilarious how bashful he is about this stuff. He's in college. All of this should be natural to talk about, but not with TJ. You meet anyone? Hey Chase, don't you have to film some stuff? He looks back at me with a frown. Whoa, just asking. Julian chuckles quietly. I bend down and start pulling out the equipment, deciding that a few long shots with the tripod should be enough. As I'm extending out the legs, Julian asks TJ about the hike. Was it fun? TJ shrugs, finishing off the last bit of granola bar and brushing his paws together to get rid of the crumbs. It was okay. It was really quiet. I wince as one of my pads gets pinched between the metal. Kinda creepy, to be honest. I would like it if you two went along sometime. If I do it again. Of course. Yeah, definitely. Over the next 20 minutes, I set up the camera in 3 different spots, getting about 1 minute of film for each. TJ and Julian sit in the truck while I do, and whenever I glance at them, they seem to be animatedly chatting and laughing. Once I'm done, I sigh and quickly snap the legs back down into the bag along with the camera. I see my to-go box in the dirt and consider picking it up, but I don't. I drop the bag into the truck again before hopping into the passenger seat, leaving TJ to sit between the two of us. They go quiet as we start pulling out into the dirt road. What were you two talking about? Not much, just about high school. TJ nods. Again, I'm starting to feel a little left out between these two, kind of like a third wheel. So, what's the plan now? Well, we thought we'd go to the house now, after we pick up Jenna and Caro. Alright. We drive in silence a little while longer, and for some reason, I start to wish that I was sitting in the middle. The way Julian keeps turning the wheel forces his elbow to brush up against TJ's side, and I force myself to look away, wondering what the fuck I'm thinking. I'm treating TJ like he's something that belongs to me. We've only hung out recently over the course of this week. I'd barely talked to him the past 2 years. I force myself to look ahead, outside the windshield. Then TJ's phone buzzes and my eyes naturally go to the screen as Lynx whips it out. I see the name Flynn, then the message underneath it. I only have time to see a few words. You know, his fucking tell me. TJ jerks his phone back down and I look away just as I feel the Lynx's eyes on my face. I wonder if he saw me looking. I'm sure he did. That doesn't really matter though, because now I wonder what the fuck Flynn thinks he's doing. They've been staying away from each other this past few days, obviously, but I guess Flynn found another way to get to TJ. What the fuck does he think he's doing? I feel myself getting angry. I don't exactly know what the lizard is saying to TJ, but judging by what I saw, it's definitely not good. I make a mental note to ask TJ about it tonight. If he won't tell me, then I'll let Leo know. He'll do something about it. We walk up the sidewalk to an old ranch-style house. It's been a long, long time since I'd seen this place. Even longer since I walk up this path. Sydney's house is up the gravel road behind the forest. It's a bit of an odd spot, secluded from the rest of the town. It was all the better for us, I guess. It's nice not to be reminded of what happened. Guys, I don't know about this. You think he's just gonna let us in? What else can we do? Maybe Sydney didn't mean his room? Where else would he sleep? I don't know. I mean, he'd take a nap in random places, if I remember right. Like, he slept on my couch even. Stop it, Chase. You know that's not what he meant. Well, who knows? I do. I know where it is. That dark edge to TJ's voice is creeping in again. I suppose there's no harm in asking. You can't deny that it's a little weird for 5 adults to just show up on your door asking to be let in. We don't have much of a choice though, do we? TJ's walking ahead of us, marching up the concrete steps without the hesitation, before immediately ringing the bell. Whoa, wait, we didn't even think of what we were going to say. I already know what I'm going to say. We stand there in stunned silence for a bit and look around at the others. Carl looks completely uncomfortable, almost nauseous, his paws shoved deep in his pockets as he stares hard at the ground. Jenna is staring at TJ, her brow furrowed, clearly worried. Julian just stands there, as if the situation doesn't bother him at all. The door finally opens, revealing a young red panda, not much older than ourselves. He blinks at us, then fixes a smile on his face. Hello, can I help you? I see TJ's ears flatten down for a moment, his original tough resolve clearly faltering. Um, uh, hello. The red panda stares then at TJ for a moment, waiting expectantly. I don't recognize him, and I'm sure I would have seen him around town if he'd moved in after Sydney's parents moved out. It must have been sometime recently, a few years ago. I decide that I should step in to let TJ try and gather his wits. Hi, I'm Chase. This is TJ, Carl, Jenna, and Julian. I point to everyone, feeling my cheeks grow hot. Hi, everyone. I'm Inji. Another moment of awkward silence before I try to think of something else to say. How the hell do you bring up wanting to search someone's house because it belongs to your dead friend? As I'm trying to figure that out, TJ speaks up again. My friend, our friend, used to live here about 12 years ago? Inji, oh, really? The panda seems to think. Are you talking about Cindy? Sydney, yeah, he was our friend. Oh, sorry, I couldn't remember the name. I think his aunt told me about what happened. Yes, and he left something behind for us in his room. Is it alright if we come in and look for it? Inji's original, inquisitive look is replaced by one of confusion and definitely a little bit of suspicion. Oh, all of you? I notice Carl still staring down hard at the floor, his paws twisting in his pockets. If it's alright with you. Inji stares at us for a good 10 seconds, causing me to glance down at the floor, realizing how stupid all of this is. Finally, he starts to step back, closing the door a little bit as he does. I'm sorry, but I don't think that's a good idea. Wait! TJ steps forward, his fur bristling. The panda jumps a little, closing the door further up until it's to the point where I can only see one of his eyes. Sorry, it's just... Maybe I could come in and the rest of my friends can wait outside. This will be really quick. I know exactly where to look. The panda's one eye looks back at us. TJ turns around and makes a shushing gesture with both paws. There's a pause, then we stumble back a little down the steps onto the sidewalk. My face burns again in embarrassment, realizing what a bunch of crazy people we might look like right now. I look back and see TJ standing alone on the porch, looking back at the panda, his paws clasped together. Again, what feels like a very long silence seems to drag on until Inji opens the door slightly. You know what? Why don't you just tell me where it is, and I'll have a look. Oh, uh, oh yeah, TJ seems surprised, as if only now considering that idea. It's the room on the left, down the hallway. TJ points at the door at an angle. In the closet, in the back corner. It might be in a box. Inji's facial expressions mirror mine as I frown. A box in a closet, sitting there for over a decade? Alright, I'll have a look. Inji disappears behind the door and I hear a deadbolt slide into place. We stand there in silence for a while before Carl breaks in. Dude, he's calling the cops. No, he's not. We look like a bunch of crazy people. We should leave. Not until he comes back out. I think I'm gonna be sick. I think it's technically okay unless he tells us to leave. He did say he was gonna look for it. No harm in just waiting for an answer. I see Carl scruff his hooves against the pavement, looking around nervously. I wonder if he's had too much weed or something. Why do you think it's in the closet? He used a shoebox in there as a spot for his treasure hunts before. You remember? I vaguely do, now that he mentions it, but I'm surprised TJ does. He was even younger. Then the door opens and Inji comes back out. His facial expression is completely different now. It's one of amazement and disbelief, but it's what's in his paws that catches my attention. It's a teal-colored shoebox, old and worn and torn through the corners. My mouth drops. Inji stands there for a moment, holding the box out. Is this it? It's not mine, and there's a piece of paper inside. TJ's paws shake as he reaches out to take the box, lifting the lid to look inside. It was in the spot where you said. I've never seen that before. I felt my stomach twist, more dismayed than anything that he found something. Do you not use that closet? It's a bit of an odd question, but I want to know how the hell he might have missed it. Inji shakes his head. No, not really. It's mostly a storage room right now. I think I've opened it a few times to put some boxes on the shelves, but I can't really remember. Did you not look inside when you first moved in? Angie looks at me, and so does TJ over his shoulder. I guess now I'm sounding like a crazy person. Well, I can't really remember. It was a couple of years ago. I had family help me move then, so maybe they just thought it was mine if they saw it. I want to ask more, but I bite my lip, not wanting to seem as frustrated and suspicious as I am. It's definitely something I could have missed. I found a few things in the crawl space from the last family. Who lived here before you, if you don't mind me asking? Inji leans against the doorway, his arms folded, looking a lot more relaxed now. It was the family that you're talking about, I think. The Bronsons? Yes. TJ still looks down at the box, having not taken out the note. Yep, the woman who lived here moved out right after what happened, but then her sister moved in. She told me about what happened when I bought the place. Inji looks down at the box that TJ's still holding. Do you know what he left? How did you know to find it? It's an old scavenger hunt that we found. It told us to come here. Like, something he left behind? Yeah. Wow, well, I'm sorry about what happened to your friend. You must have been children at the time. No one says anything, so I nod for him. I'm sorry. Also, sorry for being so suspicious when you guys showed up. Thought I had caught someone trying to break in a few days back. Can't be too careful. Don't worry about it, that's completely understandable. Inji nods, then shifts around. I don't want to pry, but what does it say? I didn't read it since I didn't want to intrude or anything. TJ lifts the lid again, then reaches in to pull out the piece of paper. It's identical to the others that we'd seen. Inji takes the box from the links so he can use both paws to unfold the note. Then he starts reading. I hope that you're all having fun. Soon you'll know what Chase has done. Figure it out? It's a piece of cake. If you can't, look by Carl's drawing at the lake. It goes quiet for a while. The only sound is the wind rustling through the trees. Then I hear a gagging sound and look back just in time to see Carl hurling into some bushes. TJ is strangely calm as we sit in the motel room. It's been about half an hour since we found the last note. After Carl lost his lunch in the bushes, Julian drove him back home, and we had to put the scavenger hunt on hold. TJ wants us all to be there for it. Julian is still with us, and I keep wondering when the hell he's gonna go home. He just joined our little group today, and TJ acts like he needs to be part of this for some weird reason. He barely even knew Sydney. But that doesn't really matter. This whole thing is so ridiculous. It's so obvious that Sydney had nothing to do with this scavenger hunt. Someone's planting these damn notes, and they have it out for me. I sit with my back against the headboard of the bed and staring at my legs as TJ tries to defend his whole thing. If this is really bothering you, Chase, then you don't have to come. I bristle a little. You're insisting everyone else go. Why not me? I force myself not to look over at Julian. I do want you to come, but you're so angry. I've never seen you like this. Oh, I have. We all have. Chase is just acting like his old self now. Jenna sits in the corner with her laptop, as usual, smirking. It pisses me the fuck off. Listen, whoever's writing these has it out for me. Look at what the last one said. Sydney wrote them. He always kind of teased you. It's just like him. I go quiet, looking away with the glare. What do you think the clues are implying about you, Chase? I think for a moment, but it's hard with all the anger that keeps threatening to bubble up to the surface. I I don't know. I just don't like the sound of it, and honestly, I try to think of the right way to word what I'm going to say. If you respect me, then you'd see that and stop this stupid hunt. It goes quiet for a moment, then Julian stands up. Hey, I'm gonna head out. Let me know what you guys decide to do tomorrow. I've got the whole day off. Oh, okay, man. Thanks so much for coming with us. TJ gives the stag a side hug, and I try to keep myself from bristling. Once Julian leaves out the door, TJ sits on the foot of the bed, looking at me. I completely respect you, Chase, but I really think these are from Sydney. He's just teasing you. I don't say anything, choosing to look at the wall, feeling more unnerved by my own emotions than anything else. I don't feel like myself at all. I know I asked you this morning, but if you think this is someone else's doing, who could it be? Jenna crosses her arms, looking at me earnestly. I sit there quietly for a moment, debating on whether or not I should tell them. I decide I have to, since neither of them seem to see it. I think it's Flynn. What? I think it's Flynn. And Carl, they're doing this whole thing. You can't be serious. Who else? Carl's the one that found the first note. I think Flynn gave it to him. The look on Jenna and TJ's face makes me look away again. Am I going crazy? Chase, that's... Crazy, I know, but you saw how Carl was acting today, how nervous he was. He even threw up. Carl does that sometimes. Ugh. I slide my legs off the bed and let them hang over the side, fully facing the wall now. I know how Flynn was back over at the river, but even he wouldn't do that. I look back at TJ with a glare. What about those texts he's sending you? What? TJ's pulse flies to his pocket, a shocked look on his face. Jenna looks between us. What? Flynn sent TJ a text swearing at him. I think he's been messaging you this whole time. TJ's quiet, just staring at me. TJ, is that true? TJ stares at the floor for a moment before finally looking up, his voice oddly calm. Yeah, well, he's angry. Of course he would be. But he has no reason to be writing the scavenger hunt. Flynn would never do that. You sure about that? TJ glares back at me, and now I can tell I've made him angry. Yes. Why would he do it in the first place? I don't have to think hard on that. To hurt TJ, to ruin our friendship by making up lies about me, to just be a complete dick. Take your pick. That's absolutely ridiculous. I don't say anything, choosing to glare at the wall. Jenna looks between us again and shakes her head. All right, that's enough of this. Neither of you are acting like yourselves, so I think it's best we head to bed. All right? Whatever. I slide into the bed on my side, still staring at the wall, listening as TJ gets up and goes into the bathroom. Jenna goes on typing on her computer. I lay there quietly, deciding that I'm going to have to do something to stop this. Sneaking out of the motel room is probably the hardest part. I know that if they catch me at any point, it's over. It's about 3 a.m. I slide out of the bed, listening to TJ's snores and watching Jenna's unmoving form curl up on the bed in front of me. Quietly, I dig around my bag for my keys, then slip out the door into the night. I grit my teeth as my car starts, imagining TJ or Jenna pulling back the curtain and seeing me sitting in the car. I've got an excuse. I'm sick. I had to drive to the emergency room, or even I just couldn't sleep and wanted to get a snack somewhere. They're all suspicious, but should be enough to cover my ass if things go south. I drive along the quiet road, my surroundings almost black since the moon has set. It takes me a moment to find the side road that will take me to the shore. Once I do, I see one lonely orange light stand in the middle of the parking lot, but I park in the corner, in the darkness. I sit in the car for a while, wondering what I'm doing, wondering what the fuck I'm going to do. But something drives me, a feeling that if I don't do this, then the rest of my life is going to be ruined. I can't let that happen. I open the door and quickly get out. I pull out my phone and turn on the light, finding the small dirt trail that leads out into the inky blackness. The air is cool and I can smell the lake. Pretty soon, I can hear it too, the soft, desolate sounds of the waves running up against the thin strip of shore. It's peaceful, but at the same time it terrifies me, and for a moment I feel like the lake is one giant living thing. It dwarfs me with its presence, a giant all-knowing thing. It knows I'm here. I shudder and force myself to continue. I find the shoreline, and the dry sand shifts under my feet as I take a right and follow the shore. I try to ignore the sounds of the lake, the feeling that it's watching me, beckoning me towards it. Finally, I come across the boulder that I'm looking for. The one that Carl used to carve his drawings into. Of course it would be something Carl used. That fat piece of shit. I kneel down beside it, moving the light on my phone around until I find the drawing. I look at the super wolf etched into the rock, glaring. Then I see a glint of light above it. I shift my phone light up to see what it is. I gasp and I can't help a ragged scream escaping my throat. A tarantula sits there, staring back at me, its cluster of eyes shining back into the darkness. I stumble back into the sand and fall, sitting down hard and causing my teeth to clatter together. I scramble back up. I look around for a rock and quickly find one. When I turn back around and lift the light, the spider is gone. I look around for a while, in case it just moved around, maybe on the floor, closer to me. I don't see anything, though, and I throw the rock at the lake, cursing the damn thing. Then I kneel down and look at the spot between the rocky ground and the boulder. It takes me a few moments, and I have to get real close, looking deeper into the crevice, and then there's a glint of what looks like metal. I start to dig, first with my bare hands, then with the help of a flat rock laying nearby. I'm sweating and gasping by the time I pull the thing free. It looks like an old lunchbox. I shine a light on it and I can barely make out what looks like a cartoon dragon. I open it and pull out the note. I read it. In a fit of rage, I tear the stupid thing in half and throw it into the ground. You fucker! I hiss out through my teeth, then pull out the piece of paper that I'd taken out of one of Jenna's notebooks along with the pen. I write for a moment, using the old lunchbox as a flat surface. When I'm done, I drop it into the box, then wedge the box into the crevice, covering it up with some dirt as I'd moved. I pack it down, then stand back up. Thinking twice, I pick up the shredded note and stuff it into my pocket. Then I walk back up to the shore and up the trail, ignoring what looks like the eyes, the shine of tarantulas around me. Maybe it's just the stars. I don't remember much of the drive back, or the parking lot of the motel. The next thing I know, I'm standing next to the bed, glaring down at TJ, watching him sleep. Saturday. It's Catterday. We arrive at the lake at about 10 in the morning. Julian had driven down over an hour ago to pick us up before driving to Carl's house. Carl wasn't ready when we got there, and when he answered the door, his eyes were bleary and red. It took him a good 20 minutes to get ready, and all the while I struggled not to glare at him. It was weird. I'd been friends with the Ram for almost my entire life, and it's only now that I'm feeling real disgust for the person that he is. So many self-created problems. He keeps his head down most of the time, so he doesn't see me. He's still feeling sick too, so I opt to ride in the truck bed on the way down, and Jenna sits with him. I can't help but wonder what might happen if he had an accident. TJ sits next to me, and this time I'm sure to sit in the middle so that Julian is on the left and TJ is on the right. It feels better this way. As the lake comes into view, I rest a paw on TJ's knee. He glances at me, then nods in acknowledgement. I give his thigh a squeeze, then wait as we pull into the parking lot, going over the scenarios in my head for what might happen. Well, here we are. We don't say anything in response as we quietly get out of the truck. Jenna pulls out of the truck bed easily, but Carl struggles, and I imagine him falling straight out and face planting into the asphalt. Jenna helps him, though, and then we're all walking down the trail towards a lake, single file. I walk right behind TJ, though, so I can keep an eye on him and anyone else that might try to fuck with him. Wow, it's been 20 years since I've been down here. Yeah. There's a cool freshness to the air by the lake. I breathe it in and get hit with the sweet memories of spending the entire days down here. Swimming in the lake, building sandcastles, poking at dead fish on the beach. As we start walking on the beach and approach the big boulder, I feel my heart start to hammer in my chest. I pick up speed to catch up to TJ. How are you feeling? I'm okay. You don't sound okay. I'm nervous. We all are. I actually feel like I'm going to throw up right now. Hehehehe. TJ suddenly reaches out his paw and holds mine. I'm surprised. TJ's never done this before, and though I know it's probably due to the situation we're in, it still makes me feel warm inside. It's going to be okay, I know it. This is going to end. TJ's voice breaks up on the last word. The end? The end of what exactly? TJ's guilt over Sydney? The mystery over what happened to him? Of the world as we know it? Yeah, that's probably it. Because I know that after this morning, things are never going to be the same again. Just remember that if it's buried by that rock, it's probably gone by now. I know I've said that many times before, but the lake has flooded a few times since. I look up to the steady, rocky bank on our right. Remember that spring that it went all the way up to the road? Yeah. I look back at our friends. Jen is walking side by side with Carl, talking to him in a low voice. Julian is ahead of them, and he's looking directly at me. I look away. I'm just saying that even if it's there, it's probably water damage to the point that we won't be able to read it. TJ just stays silent just as we come up to the rock, sitting there on the beach like it has since I can remember. Probably like it has since before the lake was even created. TJ still holds my paw as Julian, Jenna, and Carl stand next to us, the five of us in a sort of semicircle around the boulder. Well, here we are. Julian says the exact same thing he said in the parking lot, and I feel myself starting to get annoyed. But I cling to TJ's paw, and that calms me down a little. So, if it's still here, it could be anywhere. Knowing Sydney, Jenna says his name carefully. He'd probably leave a marker of some kind. This one, it's kind of hard to find. Remember what he said? It's by Carl's drawing. It's probably right next to that. I don't know, guys. The other ones were inside of something. This is just out on the beach. The sand's changing all the time. Carl digs at the damp sand with a hoof, his paws shoved into his pockets, eyes downcast. Everything okay, Carl? I say it sharply, not bothering to filter out the annoyance in my voice. He looks up at me, a bit surprised. Huh? Yeah, I'm okay. I just feel sicker from the ride down. Smoke too much stuff? Carl frowns. No, I just get sick sometimes when I'm stressed out. The weed makes me feel less sick, actually. I stop myself from asking what it is he's so stressed about. Are you okay, Chase? I'm good. I shouldn't be drawing attention to myself right now. Meanwhile, Julian's walking around the boulder, looking for the drawing. TJ lets go of my paw finally and starts to walk around the boulder from the other side. Almost immediately, he points excitedly. Oh, Carl, you're drawing! Carl slides up next to him before chuckling quietly. Oh yeah, for some reason I thought it would be gone by now. Why would that be? You chipped it into the rock. Didn't you spend like months doing that? Carl looks down at his paws. Yeah, fucked up my paws doing that too. I move around to stand next to them and see the rough outline of a muscular wolf with a long cape. Super Wolf. Carl had been obsessed with that superhero since the new movie was coming out that summer. I don't think he liked it very much because right after he saw it, he stopped working on the etching. It's actually pretty good, especially when you consider that Carl was like 9 when he did it. I pushed those memories out of my head, wiping out the smiling, childhood face of Carl from my mind. Then I steel myself, preparing for what I'm about to say and what's about to happen. Hey, look at the sand underneath it. Everyone looks down in unison at where I'm pointing my finger. I let it sink in for a moment before I say it. The dirt. It looks like someone dug it up recently. No one says anything. Or maybe the sand's just wetter there. I don't know. TJ kneels down next to the boulder, reaching out a paw to steady himself against it as Julian kneels down across from him. He reaches out with the other paw, poking at the loose-looking dirt slightly darker than the sand around it. Still, no one says anything, and I decide not to push it further, knowing that I've already planted a seed of doubt in TJ's mind. We should have grabbed a garden shovel from your house, Carl. Yeah. I pick up the flat rock I used last night. Here. I hand it to Julian. He looks at it for a second before digging the sharp end into the dirt. It sinks in deep and easy enough before the stag turns out the sand. Less than a minute later, TJ gasps and reaches into the shallow hole, pulling out the lunchbox. Now that there's daylight, I can see the chipped green paint on the dragon. TJ holds it for a moment, staring down at it. Julian looks around at us. Was this Sydney's? I can't remember, but TJ nods and with a shaky hand, unlatches the metal clasp. Carl stands further back than the rest of us, motionless. Jenna once again has a paw on her mouth, not saying anything. TJ opens the lid. The hinge squeaks a little as the tiny lid flops open, revealing my note. Paw still shaking, TJ reaches in. At this point, there's little hesitation in TJ's movements. He's eager to find out what it says, eager to get this done. TJ unfolds the note, then reads it. He doesn't read it out loud, instead letting his eyes go back and forth over the page while the rest of us wait. I know at this point that he's finished reading it, but he still doesn't say anything, eyes glued to the page. TJ? TJ doesn't say anything, continuing to stare. TJ, what does it say? TJ sits there for a few more seconds before he wordlessly holds out the note to no one in particular. His face is blank for the most part, but I can see the shock in his eyes. Julian takes it from him and starts reading. You've reached the end, but I don't have the answer, so I'll ask again. TJ, what happened to Sydney? The silence that follows is one of the heaviest that I've ever experienced. Carl's still frozen, but now he's looking up at Julian. Jenna moved her paw from her mouth at this point, but she's clutching her necklace, her eyes on TJ. Julian is just staring at the links, waiting, probably unsure of what any of this means. TJ, meanwhile, stares at the hole that he'd dug up, his paws laying limp to the side, ears dropping. I start walking over to him. What does it mean? Do you guys know? I rest the paw on TJ's shoulders, touching it softly. He doesn't move, so I crouch down next to him, slowly wrapping an arm around his shoulder, drawing him in. I can feel him trembling. Guys? I look over at Julian with a sad look on my face. We have a friend who has a grudge about this whole thing. I think he might have been the one leaving the notes. TJ shakes his head against me, but doesn't say anything. Julian stares. But why? I shrug, continuing to stroke the top of TJ's head. Julian looks from me to TJ. I don't know. Maybe he thought that this was some last chance to hurt TJ somehow. I really don't know. Jenna and Carl have walked up to stand next to us, and both seem to be at a loss for words. The paper is different, though. TJ's voice is distant and faint, muffled against my chest. There are ways to make paper look old. Maybe he just didn't have the time with this one. Julian shakes his head. Listen, I know I've only been part of this for like a day, but this seems crazy. Those are a lot of assumptions. Do you really know what happened? If you knew this friend of ours like we do, you'd understand how obvious this is. But then Jenna shakes her head as well. No, Flynn wouldn't do this. He's a jerk, but he wouldn't do this. You know that Flynn's been sending TJ threatening texts all week, and that he's been out to fuck with TJ since we got here. Jenna shakes her head again, but doesn't say anything. He wouldn't. I snap my gaze at Carl, glaring. Dude, even at his worst, he'd never do something like this. It's too fucked up. All of that work just to fuck with us? And this has to do with Sydney. No? And who found the first note? Who's been Flynn's best friend since we all left? Whoa, Chase. Carl's eyes go wide. TJ finally lifts his head, looking up at Carl. You're the one that gave it to us, set us off on this whole bullshit scavenger hunt. Carl takes a step back, mouth hanging open, looking at me like I'm some sort of alien or something. This entire thing was fucking crazy from the start. Our dead friend who left a note behind a decade old and somehow it's all still here, in the old school, in that house? Fuck that. Chase, stop it. Jenna's voice is soft and distant, lacking any sort of authority. I stand up, suddenly, staring the ram down. Whoa, how? No. Carl takes another step back and I can see his chest heaving. He can't even get the words out. It's like he's just run a marathon and can't catch his breath. Huh? I don't... Carl clutches his chest and I can't help but notice how fucking guilty he looks right now. He suddenly retches and gags loudly. Carl, breathe. No, you can't use your fucking anxiety. I make air quotes. You monster. As a shield right now. Did Flynn put you up to this? Carl retches again and doubles over, spitting on the ground. Carl. Jenna starts walking towards the ram, but at that moment something rushes past me, then past Jenna. I have a moment to see TJ's back. His tufted ears are laid flat against his head, like he's moved so fast that the wind has pushed them back. There's another quick movement that I can't quite see from my angle. But then Carl, stumbling back, a paw up to his face, letting out a gasp like he's been holding his breath for 10 minutes. I lunge forward, reaching out for TJ as the cat goes in for another swipe. Carl jumps back towards the embankment, and as he does, he lands on the many rocks that separate the beach from the road. I grab the back of TJ's shirt, and at the same time, I see Carl's hoofs disappear between the rocks. Then he falls back. And then there's a sound like a thick branch snapping in two, cutting through the air like a gunshot. Immediately, Carl lets out the most heinous scream that I've ever heard the ram make. No! Jenna runs past us, followed by Julian at a more even jog. Meanwhile, I hold on to TJ, the lynx still going after Carl, making a yowling sound as his claws swipe at the air, baring his teeth. He's wild, feral, not even thinking at all. TJ, stop, I'm here. I try talking into the lynx's ear at the same time. I feel him starting to go limp in my grasp. The energy and rage slowly going out of him. I finally feel safe enough to turn him around, pulling him into a hug. It's okay. You got him. You're fine. TJ looks towards Carl one last time, watching the ram roll back and forth on his back, choking, howling, and screaming all at once. Oh my god. Oh my god. TJ suddenly turns his face into my chest and starts to cry. Jesus, his ankle! Carl, can you move? Can't... But Carl isn't listening, continuing to scream and hyperventilate at the same time. Call an ambulance! I don't know who she's talking to, but Julian pulls out his phone. TJ continues to sob in my chest, and I start to move away towards the trail, pulling TJ with me. I'm taking Tej back to the motel. Yes, leave, please! Jenna snarls at me over her shoulder. Hi, we need paramedics. Yeah, someone here tripped and broke his leg. Now he can't get up. Carl, I know it hurts, but you need to breathe. I'm going to count. Jenna's voice fades away as I start to walk towards the trail, pulling the sobbing TJ along with me. TJ finally pulls away from me when we reach the parking lot and starts walking ahead, hugging himself. I follow behind him at a close distance, listening to him sob for a while. It isn't until we reach the road that he's finally calmed down enough to stop sobbing. I walk quietly behind him for a while longer before finally catching up, walking next to him. He doesn't say anything and goes on hugging himself, hiccuping softly every once in a while. I wonder if I should say something, ask him about what happened, or even change the subject completely. Eventually, though, he's the one to speak first. I didn't mean to. He cuts off as he goes into a coughing fit. I rub his back gently. It's okay, you don't have to explain yourself after what he did. Do you think... TJ takes a deep breath, finally steadying his words. Do you think he really did that? I let the silence drag on for a moment before finally replying. Who else could it have been? I completely understand why you went along with all of those notes, but in the end, this was the only realistic conclusion we were going to get. Yeah. I just didn't think he'd do something like this, especially Carl. TJ says Carl's name softly. I still don't know if he did it, but then I remember what he said when he played Spin the Bottle. It felt like it had to be him. I was just so angry. I've never been so angry in my life. It was scary. I mean, maybe Flynn didn't tell him everything about what was going on. I guess he could have been tricked into thinking Flynn somehow had good intentions in all of this. I don't know. His leg. TJ covers his face like he's about to start crying again. I quickly put my arm around him and hold him close. Hey, this isn't your fault. Honestly, he deserves that scratch you gave him. He fell on his own. TJ shakes his head. I can't even remember what happened. I just started running at him, like I wasn't in control. It was like I was on automatic or something. Him too? TJ. I stop the links and turn him towards me, even though he keeps covering up his face. This is not your fault. What Flynn and Carl did to you is absolutely disgusting, and honestly, I'm amazed that you were able to hold yourself back as much as you did. But the sounds he was making, it sounded so awful. TJ's face screws up under his paws. I hug him again. No, he only had a taste of the pain that you're feeling on the inside. Now stop thinking about him. It's over. This whole thing is over. TJ starts crying softly again, and I hold him close, letting him get it out of his system. Over his shoulder, I can see the ambulance lights flashing, but they don't have the siren on. I'm thankful for that, at least. My phone buzzes in my pocket a few times, but I ignore it, waiting until the Link's soft sobs taper out. I turn him away from the lake so he doesn't see the lights, and we keep walking slowly up the road. Less than a mile away, the motel sign glints in the sunlight. TJ shuffles along, continuing his quiet shuffling. Did you want to leave today? I don't know. Maybe. Well, let's get back to the motel and sit down for a while, okay? Then we can decide what we want to do. Okay. TJ's breathing evens out again as we get closer to the motel. But why do you think Flint would do that? It doesn't make any sense. I shrug. Well, like I said yesterday, I think now that he knows he isn't going to get the answer he wants, he's just out to hurt us now. That's it, really. You were right. I guess I just didn't think he would be capable of that. I mean, you always see the best in people. There's nothing wrong with that. TJ doesn't respond, and we're still silent for the rest of the way there. And I'm going to leave it like that for now. It seems that Chase has a lot of guilt on his conscience, and whatever was on that note is probably very damning for the otter. And clearly there are issues with TJ that we haven't seen just yet, but they clearly pertain to Sydney and what happened. I wonder what those could be. And poor Carl, always getting the blunt end of the stick, or however you say that phrase or whatever. Well, thank you for listening, and hopefully we will continue this tomorrow. Well, bye-bye.